Hi everyone, welcome to the session of our web series, Fireside Chat with Champions, in which we interview global business leaders, asking them crowdsourced questions relevant to the biggest challenge we face today, COVID-19 and its impact on various aspects of business and the way we can steer ourselves clear in current uncertainties. Today we have a very special guest with us, Kate Roberts, founder and CEO of the Ikigai Company. Ikigai is a private consulting practice dedicated to advising families, individuals, and organizations on strategies to design and execute customized and purpose-driven fundraising. Inspired by the importance of empowering women at the most fundamental level, Kate also created Puissante, a social enterprise startup that is building a global movement for female sexual wellness. From 1999 until recently, Kate was Senior Vice President for Population Service International, a Washington, D.C. based $500 million global NGO that operates in 60 countries. By establishing meaningful relationships with a number of successful businesswomen and philanthropists. She has raised hundreds of millions of dollars, created public and private partnerships, and impacted the lives of millions of women across the world. As a leader in global philanthropy and social change, Roberts has parlayed her business acumen and marketing background into Madison Avenue approach, setting concrete goals and delivering measurable results. In 2012, she founded Maverick Collective, which is a PSI initiative to develop impactful projects in developing world with which to tackle women's health issue, engaging Melinda Gates, Dr. Precious Motsepe, and Crown Princess of Norway, Mette Marit, as co-chairs. Maverick Collective is redefining what it means to be an effective philanthropist and investor. Kate describes herself as a pioneer in developing a new type of philanthropy, going beyond the checkbook, using time, talent, and treasure to become a more powerful and efficient advocate for mission-driven philanthropy to end extreme poverty. Kate's life experience due to her work in Eastern Europe and her childhood as daughter of a captain of a ship, which allowed her to travel the world, fueled in her a fierce determination to make a difference in the lives of women around the globe. A serial social entrepreneur, she sees obstacles as opportunity and thrives on challenges, launching initiative and then moving on to what's next. A woman driven by passion and purpose, she is a public speaker who routinely appears on TV and in print media and is producer of documentaries. Kate, a champion for all that supports the ethos of women, was honored as a young global leader by World Economic Forum, where she is also founding curator of Global Shapers Initiative. Some other recognitions she received included Fox News Power Player of the Week, Public Policy Top 100 Thinkers, Fast Company Top 100 Most Creative, Vogue 100 Top Women, CNN Hero, Jack Valenti AIDS Leadership Award, and Fortune's Most Powerful Woman. Kate is also an accomplished artist, interior designer, and has a residential real estate business with Cotamondo Lifestyle. She is alumnus of Harvard University and Southport University of Art and Technology. Thanks, Kate, for accepting our invitation, and I would request you to let our viewers know a little bit more about you and your current interests and activities. Floor is yours, Kate.
Well, thank you so much, Deepak, and thank you for having me. I think we're all very preoccupied with the state of the world, and I try to do what I can, as you so mentioned, when there are opportunities to have impact. And I believe very much in the fact that it is people that create change, not just money. And so I very much, as you mentioned, like to seek out champions around the world who can help us to solve these problems. And right now, we have a lot of unrest in the world in general. We have this horrific pandemic that is spreading across the world. But there are always solutions. And so I hope today to be able to talk about what some of those solutions are, and also maybe a little bit how I go about harnessing that power. Because you are very powerful as a collaborative. It's not just one single person, right, that can solve these issues. It's really identifying people, looking at the talents, and then applying that in the right way to solve these problems. So I'm excited to talk a little bit more about that.
Great, Kate. Actually, as we know that you have been doing this for now few decades, and thanks for doing that, because you are trying to touch lives of those who are actually being neglected the most, those who are the most vulnerable. And that is also what the social entrepreneurs do, right? When the markets and the governments fail, it is the social entrepreneurs, they try to help those who are impacted the most. Now, COVID-19 is also something which all of us have seen once in our life, right? We have never seen something that disastrous in the past. And that is going to impact those vulnerable the most. At the same time, we are seeing that the social entrepreneurs, which needs funds, which need support, they might not be able to get those support. So I would like to understand from you that how do you see that the social entrepreneurship would get either reset or impacted by COVID? So what are your views on that?
Thank you. It's a great question. Well, I should say that over the 20 odd years that I've been doing this, I've actually worked on quite a few global pandemics. And this one is a little bit more unusual because it is so infectious. However, I do want to point out that other diseases kill a lot of people. You know, I've worked on Zika, I've worked on cholera, I've worked on Ebola, all the different flus, pneumonia, HIV, and, you know, those types of diseases actually have killed more people than COVID-19. However, that's not to minimize what is happening with COVID, because what is happening with COVID is, as we discussed earlier, people are being forced to stay home so that we can curb the tide of this pandemic, and various measures are being put into place. But COVID is not stopping all the other diseases that are happening to the marginalized people living at the bottom of the social economic pyramid. And it's also really affecting our economy, because with the stay-at-home rule, people can't work, people don't have access to food. As I said, people can't go out to work. So the effects of COVID-19 are gargantuan, not just in the healthcare or your own personal risk, but for the global economy. So what to do and where's the opportunity? Well, I am a big believer that if we have a breakdown in government, we need to look at other ways of responding to this pandemic. And I believe that civil society and the private sector, there are lots of opportunities there, also with private philanthropic dollars, to both protect the global health system, the systems that are in place, but also to really innovate, be able to innovate. So where, you know, governments also have the responsibility to protect their own nationals, it can't just be a government response. With those three entities coming together, government, civil society, and the private sector, we will have a much, much bigger chance to respond to this pandemic in a systematic way that helps us to continue to deliver the healthcare, respond to COVID, change behavior. And again, I see behavior change as one of the biggest opportunities that we have in healthcare, because I don't know about you, but during this time, I haven't been sick because I've been so cautious about protecting myself and others by the guidelines that have been given, you know, by the CDC, by the World Health Organization, and by local governments. So where does that leave us? That leaves us that, you know, this has really put a dent in the global healthcare system. And we now need to rebuild that. And that is, again, the responsibility of those three entities, government, civil society, and the private sector. And with our work at PSI, for instance, which is a global health organization working in about 50 countries, I'm impressed with their work because they are really taking this systematic approach to communicate, develop behavior change communications around simple things that we can all do: hand washing, wear protective masks, looking at digital platforms to deliver these communications through cell phones, through community healthcare workers, building capacity around the world, taking the existing resources and shifting the work that is being done. And then, of course, emergency operations. You know, people need food, people need clean water. You know, again, all these other diseases do not go away in the time of COVID. Women need access to family planning. You know, more babies. I think more babies and more divorces will come out of COVID than anything else. Of course, there is a huge threat to women with domestic violence because, again, families can't get away from each other. And so the problems that they had before are just exasperated now. So I actually see this as a real opportunity. Again, I tend to look on the ikigai side of things, where everything happens for a reason, and we can use this time to really focus and repair the healthcare system by using the funding that is available in the best possible way to structure a system and strengthen a system across the world to be able to deliver affordable, available, accessible healthcare to everyone, not just people living at the bottom of the pyramid, but, you know, to people like you and I as well, who are more fortunate in where we live and how we live. And, you know, COVID is a disease that affects everybody. It's not it's not a disease just affecting the marginalized. It's affecting everybody. And there is, of course, always an opportunity there. And that was a very long-winded answer to your question, Deepak. So I hope that answers a little bit. And, you know, very sadly, COVID-19 does affect women more than men because of the issues that I have mentioned. But what I do also know is that there is a shortage of condoms and vibrators across the world because people are trying to also find a way to you know, have a healthy life at home. And so that's a good thing, right? And that's an example of an opportunity. PSI sell billions of condoms every year, and what my hope is that they will sell more during this period of time to be able to build a self-sustaining social enterprise that then doesn't rely on government funding or private philanthropic dollars. If they can, which I know they're working towards, look at these sustainable models of delivering healthcare products like condoms, where it actually creates a profit, then that's the way to go.
Very well articulated, and I fully agree with the 3 points you raised. One, definitely we need to come together when it's the government, the civil society, and the private sector to solve this problem. It cannot be either or, it has to be all three. The second thing that actually, like, you know, this, yes, women as a gender would suffer a little bit more than the male gender. And third, which is very important thing, that we have to start talking about things which used to be taboo now, because it's all about the sexual, mental, as well as physical health of people. And we as an organization, we work with the farmers actually. I'm having an ag tech company. We have also started working with grassroots level, because the women farmers, unfortunately in India and South Asia, they have not been able to get their due because of, it's just not an agrarian crisis. They are having other family issues and other crises as well. So by actually enabling them to digitally transform and start using WhatsApp, we have been able to help them and make them a little bit more, I'm saying that self-sufficient, self-reliant. So those small intervention by the public sector and private sector as well as civil society is required. But that brings us to our second question, because we were talking about the gender bias. See, in past couple of decades, we have achieved a lot because of people like you, more girls goes to school today. There is less child marriages in women, right? And we are having far more people than in past in leadership positions currently being women. But at the same time, we have not achieved the final result. Still a lot needs to be done. At the same time, the pandemic, like what we are seeing today, Corona, it will impact, as you rightly said, the women more than men. Now, how do you see that the impact of COVID on typically the fifth important goal of SDG, that is gender equality? So we would like to hear a little bit more about that from you.
Well, I appreciate the question very much, because, as you know, I've spent my whole life as an activist really making this world a better place for women. And the reason I do that, Deepak, is if you invest in a woman, you will strengthen families, you will strengthen local communities, you will strengthen nations, and therefore we can build a stronger economy. every fact in the world that proves that if we invest in women, it can be there needs to be an economic reason for that. If you give a woman $10, she will spend it on her children. She will spend it on school books. She will buy a goat or a pig. And, you know, women are naturally entrepreneurial because they want to protect their families. They want to invest in their families. However, women also need to be very conscious about their reproductive health. And having too many children will also affect the economy. And there are still enormous lacks of contraception, different methods of contraception available to women around the world. And also, women are still so marginalized where the man in the household still holds the power. And this is not a discussion about men versus women. Right? Women have their qualities and their opportunities, and men also have their qualities and opportunities. However, equality is important so that we, again, can work up the strengths of what a woman can bring to the world and what a man can bring to the world. And making sure that women have the access to ongoing contraception so that they can plan their families and choose the size of their families is so, so important. And we're still working against many, many barriers. Men not wanting to limit the size of their families because it, you know, it has all sorts of connotations about their success. Religion gets in the way. But one of the biggest problems is access. And, you know, COVID has definitely slowed down the access to contraception. So whereas before women could have access to pills or condoms, that access now has been stunted. And so we need to continue to deliver much, much needed healthcare services in clinics, with community healthcare workers, making it easy for a woman to have access to everything she needs: maternal health products, reproductive health products and services at an affordable way. And the biggest way of doing that is really creating markets to work for the poor. And what I mean by that is, you know, gone are the days that we're dropping rice sacks from airplanes onto the runway. You know, that's like putting a Band-Aid on the problem. We need to build effective channels that can reach women all over the world. Doesn't matter about their economic status. It's about access, affordability, and behavior change, and then making the services in the form of clinics or community healthcare workers profitable. So building markets to work for women, and protecting their health, and doing that through various ways. Again, a strong delivery mechanism, building capacity in local markets, strengthening the private sector to be able to deliver and fill gaps where the government is perhaps failing. So again, I get back to the triangle of private sector, government, and civil society, and those three entities working really well together to be able to deliver on what's necessary, not just around COVID-19 and the coronavirus, but about all issues affecting women, including gender-based violence, including maternal health. You know, more women than ever are dying in childbirth because they're frightened to go to a hospital right now. And even before coronavirus came about, you know, that was happening. So making healthcare affordable, accessible, approachable, and available, it needs to be the key for women, and involving women in the solution. That leads to the other side of things in the philanthropic world. You know, these philanthropic dollars are so vital because with philanthropic dollars, we can really innovate, test things out. That's what Maverick Collective is all about, where we identify a promising solution, we try it out in one of the markets, and then we can scale that across the world. And I'll end by saying that women are a huge opportunity because the actual transfer of wealth over the next couple of years will go into the hands of women. And it's never been greater than it is right now. Trillions of dollars will transfer over from wealthy families into the hands of women, young women, millennial women, who want to do philanthropy differently than their parents or grandparents have done. And so we really need to look at that as an opportunity of cash flow, both for investing in social impact, impact investing, pure philanthropy to test out solutions, but also in investing in companies. It's women that are going to be doing this moving forward. And we need to really take that into account. Banks need to think differently about how they're going about their business, who their clients are, and how they're accommodating for powerful women who will have the access. And that also means in marginalized groups at the bottom of the pyramid, there is a lot of spending power, for instance, in India and other developing countries where women tend to be the ones who are making the decisions about how they spend their family money. And healthcare, for instance, is a big priority because women want to keep their families safe and healthy.
Perfect. Very well articulated again, actually. And believe me, I fully agree with you when you said that actually, women, they think for family, they think about health of the family, and men, they are having a specific, I'll say that the hardwiring in the mind where actually they look at very, very different things than not just the family. Now coming to another very critical question, and this is more related to you because COVID means we'll be going through a lot, right? With United Nations saying that maybe 500 million people will be driven to poverty. At the same time, the middle class might move towards lower middle class. So you'll find a lot of people having a very, very different life than what they have been doing so far. That will have impact on them physically, socially, and mentally. Now, I would like to understand from someone who has been mentally very tough, because working in Russia, Ukraine, Romania, India, right, is not that easy. I understand that. So you need someone to be mentally very, very strong, someone who is a British, stayed in US, studied in US, and then coming to this part of the world. You need a very, very tough mind for doing that. So I would like to understand from you how you are coping up with COVID, right, as an individual and as an owner or a founder of an organization. So what would be your advice for those who are listening to you?
Well, the first thing I'll say is I must be the only person alive right now who has not started one company during the coronavirus pandemic, but 3 companies. And so I have used this year, I would say, because a lot of people say, I'm just discounting this year. This year, I've been sitting at home. Maybe I got fit. Maybe I got the COVID 20, extra pounds. I actually have approached this in a very different way. And I've done a number of things. I followed my own Ikigai. And, Ikigai means life of purpose, right? It means long, happy, healthy life and finding your life of purpose. My aim every day is to wake up happy, healthy, and motivated and be very, very focused on what it is I'm doing. And personally, I decided that after 20 years of being in an infrastructure like PSI and helping PSI to grow into the amazing organization it is today, I wanted to continue to be entrepreneurial and focused on my own terms. And so I really took some time to think about, well, what does that mean? There are various things that make me happy and that I enjoy. I love creating things. I love looking for opportunities. I love to build markets. I love to build enterprises and companies. And I love to be really focused. And so the first thing I did was I started keto, actually. Not because I wanted to lose weight, but it really does. When you follow keto, it really focuses your brain. And then you get all the amazing effects of that as well, which comes in more energy, weight loss, brain focus, and drive. And so that was the first thing I did. The second thing I did, I started to really understand, well, where are the gaps? What are the gaps in this world? Where are the opportunities that I can use my whatever talent it is I have to start these companies where there is an opportunity. But mostly, you know, what happiness factor does that bring to myself? And what am I going to really, really enjoy? Because one thing is for sure is that when you have passion, that comes across and people will buy into it. And I realized that I wanted to help individuals as much as I possibly can to both find their ikigai, but also to make the right decisions in their social impact. Because as I started the conversation off by saying, it's not about money that changes the world, it's about champions and how those champions can apply themselves. Everyone has an opportunity, whether they can give $5 or whether they can give $5 million. Everyone has that power in them. And it's not just about doing. It's about applying your time, your talent, and your treasure in the best possible way. And so over the last 25 years, I have countless examples of how I've seen champions and individuals change the world. And it's about making the proper alliances, investing in the right organization, and being transparent and truthful, and living your best life. And so that's what I've been doing the last year, actually, whilst we've been in the coronavirus situation. I have been homebound. I've been very, very focused. I've used my global network to create change, to find solutions. I started a new social enterprise called Puissant, which is all about female sexual wellness. I talked a lot about women not having access to contraception, and I believe that this needs to be a private sector approach. I don't necessarily believe that charity alone is going to solve these problems. And so I wanted to create my own company that was a platform. It's a startup. I have a startup. Just like everybody else in a startup, it's about raising money. It's about getting people to believe in what you're doing. It's about recognizing a market gap and delivering to that market gap. But most of all, it's about the passion. You know, with entrepreneurs, male or female, if you believe in what it is you're doing, you can convince investors to come along with you. But at the end of the day, you need the data, you need the figures, you need the projections, and you need a plan. And that is what I've been working on personally. The second thing I think that is very, very important to all entrepreneurs out there is having a network. And I've been so lucky in my career being recognized for the work that I've been done by the World Economic Forum. I'm very, very passionate about India. And I actually am working on a project right now called After the Flush, which is a sanitation project in India that was chosen by the World Economic Forum as a project for them to also invest in with other young global leaders in my network. And what I see from that network and that opportunity is you're able to connect with champions who agree with there is an opportunity around an issue. And I think in India, it's a really interesting case study. I've been going to India for many, many years. I think I might be part Indian because I have just such a love for the country. And then I go and like everybody else, you know, I see the sheer poverty that a lot of India is suffering with. But I also see real opportunity. And I think, you know, India has actually done some really, really smart things. And the government, Prime Minister Modi has been a real champion in, for instance, building toilets. And he's made a lot of headway. However, there is one thing that is still a big problem, and that is a lot of the toilets that have been constructed are not connected to the government sewage facilities. And so what does that lead to? That leads to illegal dumping of sewage. It leads to very poor sanitary conditions to a lot of people who are living at the bottom of the pyramid. Last year, I was actually visiting Delhi and Patna, where we've done a lot of work already in building a social enterprise of tanker workers. this is considered essential work, right? The tanker workers still have to come and empty the sewage plants, because otherwise it's just all gonna overflow, and the septic tanks. And so through my network, we were able to build a Young Global Leader coalition of big industries in India who share our concerns for this. But COVID, sadly, has put a dent in our progress when, you know, basic sanitation needs, like having a social enterprise around pure and simple emptying septic tanks and legally dumping the sewage, right? Just that situation alone could easily just get so out of control in a place like India, anywhere in the world. You don't single out India. You know, in many parts of Africa, there are the same issues. And so I'm a big, strong believer in finding your network, investing in your network, investing in finding champions. And, you know, this After the Flush project in India has been a really, really good example of individuals coming together to really try to solve a problem. And, you know, don't try and go it alone, right? Find your champions and use your network to find those champions, and be very clear in your goals. And, you know, you will solve problems, and you will set up successful businesses in that way.
Very well thought out answer for making people mentally strong as well as motivated, because I'm already getting goosebumps by listening to what you are saying or trying to solve a problem. In fact, I would request you and to have a look at how you can work with the women community who are the farmers, because that's a part I believe that India has neglected, and that is what is one of the reasons of the growth of the nation as well as the majority of the challenges you are facing today. It's not coming out because they are not educated, they have lesser access to healthcare, and they also work on farm without any control or any power to make a decision, right? So money, when you earn, actually it goes to the men's hand, right? So those challenges, I believe, is a great thing to work on, because that can be scaled in Africa, Southeast Asia, and South Asia. You have a similar problem. So have a look at it, because I believe somebody needs to solve that problem, and you are one of the best person to do that. So that brings us to the last section of our discussion. And Kate, I would like to understand from you that we have raised millions of dollars, right, for various specific initiatives. What would be the 4 or 5 silver bullets for those who are the social entrepreneurs like me, right, who are fighting a battle not just to become billionaires? We are fighting a battle to serve billions, right? And in those fights, sometimes, like, you know, you cannot think with the mindset of a typical entrepreneur, where actually the return of investment as well as a valuation of the company can be the only way of taking things forward. And generally, when we talk about those who invest, they look at those numbers very, very critically. Maybe after COVID, impact investment will prosper a little bit more. So I would like to learn from you, for our audience, that how do you feel that what would be the 4 or 5 or 6 specific key action points which a social entrepreneurs can adopt to be more successful in fundraising?
Well, if I think about a social enterprise such as your farmer network, the first thing to be successful in fundraising is focus. And a lot of entrepreneurs, and I've been guilty of this myself, you know, love the challenge of getting things set up and then, you know, get distracted with other things. And so my first bullet point is absolute focus, 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 and stay focused on the prize. The second thing is, whatever it is you're doing, if you really can't, if you don't have a plan to successfully scale, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing, because everything worth its salt is scalable. It has leverage. So again, don't try and go it alone. If you have a successful idea, really look at building the partnerships around it and working with others to try, and don't be blinkered in that, because successful partnerships can be the make and break of anything. I think in the fundraising world, people get very territorial about what they're doing. They think their idea is the best idea, and everybody else's idea is less so. And that's a mistake I think that many entrepreneurs have, because they are, you know, obsessed with their idea and believe that they can go it alone and you have to give me money and that's it. But actually funders, investors, people love it when there are effective collaborations, because it helps with the scale and it helps with the leverage. Self-sustainable. A lot of investors and funders really look for that element, as in you don't want to have to keep going back to the well for more money. And so looking at sustainable systems and systemic change, if it's for social impact, is extremely interesting to funders and investors. And then the last, I think you asked for 5, and then the last thing that I would say is, whether you are a philanthropist, a funder, an investor, it's about the experience, right? As in, open your doors to your partners, your stakeholders. Let them understand what your challenges are. A lot of organizations, whether they be charities or companies, try to hide the problems that they have because they think that those investors are going to walk away. But actually, if you are vulnerable and you are transparent with all your challenges and you involve those partners in your problems, you will get a partner for life. The moment you start hiding those problems, when you're raising money or when you've got the money and you're trying to make something work, involve your partners in it. Don't hide from that. And I think that's probably one of the most valuable pieces of information I can give you that I've learned over the years, that, you know, nobody is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. Sometimes you fail, and it's fine to admit your failures. It's absolutely fine. Most startups do not work.
No, that's true and very correct, actually. Like, you know, you rightly said, actually, we also, when we got into doing what we are doing, the first thing we removed from our business canvas was competition. So for me, actually, like, you know, in fact, you'll be surprised this in Fireside Chat. When I reached out to some of the people who believe I am their competitor, I said that I want to interview and put your story to the world. And they were, holy shit, do you want to promote me? I said, why not? He said, you're a competition. I said, no, I'm a collaborator. Let's work together. And you'll be surprised. After the Fireside Chat, we are looking to collaborate. So you are right. Let's look for partnership. And as you rightly said that, you know, you should be transparent and you should be open to your challenges, your problems and your failures. And that's very, very important. And it was an awesome discussion, Kate, with you. And believe me, like, you know, what I loved about what you have talked is that you have both passion and compassion, which is a rare commodity in today's world. So thanks a lot for being part of this awesome chat we had today, and look forward to be in touch with you and try to make world a better place for all of us. Thanks a lot.
Likewise. Thank you for having me, and good luck with everything you're doing, Deepak. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.